We are a visual 3D reminder of the mistakes of this country, of the unmet debt in this country, right? When it comes to what happened with the institution of slavery, and what's still happening with racism and white supremacy today.
Ohio has not shown that it will hire or vote for a woman. We had Hillary that it didn't vote for. We had Kamala Harris that it didn't vote for. And everybody forget we had Cheryl Stevens and Nan Whaley, who ran once before also, that Ohio overwhelmingly didn't vote for.
We can either be homeowners of our politics and of our progress, or we could be renters. And at any moment, rent can go up, we can get evicted. I mean, I think that is where we are as a people right now.
This is Strategic Moves with Kenn Dowell.
Everybody talks about voting. Few people get it right. The money, the access, and the seat. That's what we're going to get in today. How the modern black political power is being built, who's behind it, and whether it's really working for us. My guest today is one of the architects who helped build this structure, Mr. Quentin James. He's the president and co-founder of the Collective PAC, one of the largest black political action committees in the country. Dedicated to building black political power, he helped elect over 500 black elected leaders across the nation, from mayors to Congress members. He's worked on campaigns, built donor network, trained candidates, and raised millions of dollars to make his voice be heard. And not just to say that we need to be visible, but we need to be viable at the same time. Today, we're going to get behind the curtain and talk a little bit about the money, the message, the media, the muscle. And question is simple. Have we built a new kind of black political power, or have we just monetized the same dependency? These are some of the questions we're going to sit down today and talk with Mr. Quentin James as we get into money, power, and politics. Mr. James, welcome to my program.
Hey, brother, thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
Oh, man, it's good to you, man. We've been doing this thing for quite some time now here in Cleveland and around, and, I've worked on several campaigns nationally as well as yourself. I want to first talk to you because a lot of people don't know, first of all, who you are. And I explained what
I like
you did
that a little bit,
with that political PAC. You are somebody that's in our community. He's here, right here in Ohio and Greater Cleveland. And a lot of people don't know the work that you guys done and all of that. So I want you to give us first who you are, what inspired you to start a political action committee, and then mainly explain to the people what exactly is a political action committee. Then we'll get into all the nuts and bolts of this conversation.
All right, that sounds good.
Yes.
And again, Ken, thank you for your leadership, all your work in this community. Thank you for having me today.
No problem.
On your platform.
No problem.
So again, my name is Quentin James. I'm the founder and president of the Collective PAC. Originally, I'm from Greenville, South Carolina. A famous civil rights leaders from Greenville, people may not know. That's Reverend Jesse Jackson. And we are just amazed at his leadership over the past few decades. And so my background, I really was a student of civil rights. I got involved with NAACP when I was in high school, became a state youth leader through that organization, and eventually on the national board of directors. But I got involved in politics back in 2007, the first Obama campaign. I was 19 years old. I decided to leave school to work on that campaign, which was did not make my parents happy because I was had a full ride scholarship and left that to go and support this candidate at the time, little unknown candidate by the name of Barack Obama.
So you gave up your ride?
I gave up my ride to go on a crazy ride on that campaign.
Wow. Did you stay home? I know you.
So what was amazing is, again, I'm from South Carolina, so we were a major important state in 2007.
Okay, so yeah,
as a
you
primary.
were
So
needed.
I was able to work at home, organize my own community,
I got you.
but get paid on the campaign to do so. And so for me, that was, again, I think a really important moment to understand the power of community organizing, the power of money in politics.
That's correct.
Seeing what was being built, working for a black candidate. But at the time, many people inside, were taking directions from a lot of white people, right? And so what did that mean for us? So that was really, I think, the basis of my political viewpoint between that and NAACP. So fast forward years and years, Obama wins. I moved to D.C. I transferred to Howard University where I was able to graduate. Got a job on Capitol Hill working for former Representative Carolyn Cheeks Kilpatrick, who just passed away from Detroit. So worked for a CBC member who was the chair of the CBC
Okay.
during the craziness of the first black president.
That's wild.
And so, again, that was a critical moment for me to be a student of history of politics at the time. And so fast forward post Howard, fast forward to some of my own kind of hopping around being a consultant. 2016, we are seeing Donald Trump run for president. He's kind of taken over the Republican Party. But at the time, we really didn't see the organizing of black folks the way that we thought there should be. This was the height of the Black Lives Matter really movement.
Correct.
Well, you know, kind of before Black Lives Matter, right? It was about Trayvon, it was about Freddie Gray, it was about Michael Brown, and we saw that movement kind of become in this moment. But there wasn't an organization that was organizing people inside the room.
Okay.
It's important to be marching and protesting on the outside, but who's inside making decision points?
That's correct.
And so we looked at what was happening in Ferguson specifically. You had a majority black suburb of a majority black city, St. Louis, not a black member of city council, never had a black mayor. You had a prosecutor in the county who was a 30-year incumbent almost, never had a black prosecutor. And so you had this tragedy of this killing of this teenager and all the white supremacy that came with that. And you had black people in position to leverage power, but we haven't been leveraging power to that moment. And so we said, what would it mean if we organized money and organized people to get into office and change those laws that we wanted to change? What would that look like? And so we started the Collective PAC in 2016 to kind of be that answer. Now, what is a PAC? A PAC is a political action committee. But essentially, it's a legal mechanism to bundle and raise money from lots of people for a certain cause. And so, you know, one of the most famous PACs people may have heard of is the NRA, the National Rifle Association. Gun owners who are passionate about guns, they organize their money and they back candidates who they want to see, you know, protect, quote unquote, gun laws, or they defeat candidates who may be running against, you know, quote unquote, having, you know, crazy open gun laws. And so our government, right, gives us the ability to organize our money around our causes. Up until we created the Collective PAC, there has not been a organized black political action committee working on every level. So we work on the local, state, and federal level. So whether you're running for a school board or city council, to running to, you mentioned mayor, running for U.S. Senate, U.S. Congress, or even running for president, we now have a mechanism to raise money to support those candidates, but also to defeat those candidates who are not showing up for our community.
So what's the difference between you and NAACP?
Yeah, so NAACP, National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, been around since 1909. They actually had a PAC back in the 2000s, but obviously because a lot of the campaign finance laws, they no longer have a political action committee. The NAACP is organized as a 501c4, which is a tax designation for those of you who may be wondering. But it's essentially a way that they can organize their units, their chapters around the country to advocate for policy. The difference from us is we actually want to elect people into office directly who are going to create or defeat policy that obviously we may want to see that will impact the black community, you know, in a positive fashion.
So now that we got a good understanding of all that and everybody
little bit,
understand
right.
what a PAC is, because I know when this discussion, it might be for some of you, but for those who really get it, you're going to get it. For those who don't, you might learn a little something today. So I wanted him to make sure we got some of that out so everybody can get it, because we're going to really try to dive deep into some political discussions and things of that nature.
Let's do it.
So I opened up the conversation when I asked you about the Collective PAC and what you're doing. How would you answer if I was to say, are you building a new kind of black power, or are you just monetizing the same old dependencies that we've been doing before?
You know, that's a great question. And one of the things that we grapple with all the time, I would say, I would hope we are building something new. Because listen, we know that as black people in this country, we're only 13% of the population, right? And so, yes, in some cities and some municipalities, we do have a majority. but that's very far and few in between when you think about the entirety of this country. But I think also you think about the globe, right? There are more black people on this globe than any other people that exist. And so it's kind of a duality of being in a minority position in this country, but on the world stage, we're actually the majority of people on this earth. And so when I think about our dependency on this system, there are some ways in which we are dependent on the democratic ecosystem, right? The two-party system. But I would hope that what we are doing is building something that is more independent than what we've seen previously. That's our goal.
What would you say some of the differences you would say what you're doing? I know one that's easier, we'll say digital, but what give me some of the other differences you think that you guys are doing that traditionally hasn't been done?
Yeah, so, and again, this is like a little bit of the sausage making that goes behind this work, right? And so you think about how a campaign is run, we operate in a two-party system. And so, 90% of black people are Democrats or aligned with the Democratic Party. And so as a candidate, you got to, run in a primary, right? You got to say, I want to be the Democrat for this particular seat. Well, that means you got to, sign up to be number one, a Democrat. You got to get access to their voter file, right? You got to get access to their resources, their nomination. And so there is some negotiation around what that means for you as a black candidate. When we say we want to build independent black political power, what we're saying is, yeah, that's fine. You got to, do those things to get on the ballot, and we understand we're in a two-party system, but how about we own the data on all black voters in the country, right? How about we own black media where we can actually get our own message out instead of having to depend on Facebook or YouTube or Twitter or whoever it is? How about we have black campaign consultants, right, who we can pay, who can lead our engagement efforts? How about we have black mail firms, right, that are black owned that we know we got to send out campaign mailers, or even black printers, and we got to do printing for our campaigns? The problem we have right now is the majority of the infrastructure that supports American politics is not even majority white owned. It's like a super majority.
You
and I'll
super majority.
And I'll give a recent example.
Okay.
Right? I know many people are maybe frustrated that the Democratic Party didn't do a a study of what happened in 2024 with Kamala Harris.
Right.
And so Vice President Harris, first black woman to be a major party nominee, raised over $1 billion in 107 days. I can tell you, and we've done the research, and we'll be publicizing this over the next few months. She spent less than her campaign. I wouldn't say it's her. I think her campaign, under white leadership, spent less than 3% with black vendors.
Wow.
Right. And when you think about it, the black vendors who did receive those funds, only one black media consultant, but one of the higher black-owned vendors who made over $1 million was a black-owned car company who would move staff from the airport to the campaign office, right? And so that's good. We want to see that limo company getting some business. But think about all the black entrepreneurs around the country who we know, who we work with, who didn't have the opportunity to be at the table.
That's in the business.
That's in the business, right? And so this is a age-old problem that we have. But when we say we want to build something different, we want to call that out, but also fix it at the same time.
And I think that's the big difference between ownership and access.
Exactly.
I think we have plenty of access,
right?
Because we all done worked for them. We done had opportunities to maybe be in some rooms that others haven't. Access has always been there, and part of that is, the carrot that they give. We'll give you some access.
Right.
You don't have all, but you have some access. Right. But ownership is the true key to that.
Exactly.
Do you ever worry about the new generation of black leadership being too comfortable being accepted and not focused enough on being effective?
Yeah, I mean, this is the problem of the the kind of pick-me individual, right? Like they want to be the person, not only invited in the room, but at the head of the table. But when it comes to actually fighting for our key issues, fighting for our ownership, they are very comfortable saying we're not going to do that, right? They're very comfortable saying we don't want to ruffle feathers.
That's correct.
And so there is a little bit of a challenge there, whereas When folks, when their career is dependent on access, yeah, they're gonna cowtail, right? And so we don't need more of that at all. I do think there are folks out there who are willing to fight. What we got to do as a community, though, we got to back those people up when they are out there fighting.
That's correct.
I think about two mayors, two black mayors of major cities who did not win re-election over the past few years.
Okay.
I think about Mayor Tashara Jones in St. Louis, and I think about Mayor Ed Gainey in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Right, two black mayors who were fighting for our communities, who were leading voices in those moments of the Black Lives Matter movement, who were trying to move city resources to support the black community. They were taken out because, to your point, there were some black leaders in those communities who said, you know what, we're going to go with the safe white choice so I can cut a deal behind the scenes. Right. The community didn't stand with those folks the way that we needed them to, because we got picked off with, well, hey, I'll appoint you to this committee, or hey, I'll look out for you on this development deal, right? Like, those things are happening and we got to stop it. But there are examples of folks who are out there fighting for our folks, and we want to back them up too.
That's a real good point that you made, because that seemed to be the biggest downfall of our community.
Exactly.
And it's always been, and we seem to not have came up with any way of being able to deal with that for whatever reason. And I think it's going to get harder before it gets better. And I'm hoping that organizations like yours, and we have our PAC that we do the sort of saying we're not as big as this guy here and doing as much as they are, but we definitely are trying to do our portion of what we can to try to help. But in that in that, do you think that this new generation, and I was talking with Rhonda earlier today on her podcast, we were talking about this idea that they don't want to fight as hard as the old generation did in that, and it kind of makes it a little more difficult. And what I mean by that is, when you look at social media and things now, they had that campaign when it was going, sit your ass down, people didn't want to get up and work. Right. You hear people talking now about what's going on in Minnesota, about the fact that we shouldn't be out there fighting, let them fight this out, it's not our fight. How do you speak to the new generation or this next generation of coming up where that type of ideology seems to be the thing that's moving this generation along, and in that, how you can still stay effective in making sure we fight for the things that they're not going to have an opportunity to fight for?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is one of the kind of key points to why this platform, what you're doing here, is so critical. I think the education that I received from just being an eyewitness to people like a Reverend Jackson and all the leaders who we helped develop growing up, I was in the room, right? I was in the community. I saw that. Now with social media, if people aren't connected to that, they aren't seeing that, and they think it doesn't exist.
Correct.
Right? And they even think the problems that we talk about don't exist if they don't experience those.
That's correct.
And so I do think what white supremacy in what I think some people are now calling like white narcissism has really shown us is they've gotten in bed with the tech bros, right? And so if you listen to these podcasts, if you go on social media, it is more rampant to kind of see and visualize a society where people want there to be a colorblindness, right?
Right.
That's not our reality.
I'm glad you said that. Exactly.
But that is what is being projected
on both sides, on all sides,
right?
On all sides,
for this next generation. Right. And so I think we're a little bit outgunned at the moment in terms of being able to communicate to our folks what's really happening out there and what the reaction should be, right? And so, listen, the civil rights activists have gotten us to a place where we had huge opportunity. I think the challenge has been, though, for this new generation is, for the first time, they are technically worse off than their parents economically, right? The economy has not gotten us to a place where we can look back and say, we're in the promised land, right? And so I think that messes with people a little bit. A few years back, there was a study of, how is Black life 50 years after the Civil Rights Acts, right? And almost every factor, whether it was housing, employment, kind of not a cost of living, but earnings. The Black community is kind of where we were 50, 60 years ago. And so there's been a lot of progress made around opportunity.
Okay.
Right? We saw Barack Obama, right? We can see Black winners of the Oscars, the Academy Awards. We can see Black quarterbacks winning Super Bowls, right? Like that veil, right, is powerful, but we can't forget about the average, everyday Black person in this country.
Correct. That's correct.
And we got to be honest with ourselves to say we have made progress, but that progress has not been enough. And so I don't want to put it solely on the white supremacists, right, or the Trumpers or whoever. Some of that is on us to say we've made progress, but everyone isn't feeling that progress the way that they should be.
That's correct. That's right.
Right. And so to your point though, right around this new generation, there is some cynicism in that's justified. And so how do we acknowledge that by saying, yes, that's a real feeling, but we got work to do and we can do that work with you on board. Here's some examples of what's popping and where it's popping. We need more of that, right? I look at cities like a Birmingham, like in Atlanta, sometimes even a city like LA is making a lot of progress, right? Like Chicago, Black people have a history of doing well and can do well with Black leadership. We got to show more of that online and to people around how it can impact their lives.
So, it says, I guess the question would have been is, are you think we're losing that personal touch that built our communities in the first place? You think that's
completely
totally gone?
It's not gone. It is moving, right? It is moved from offline to now online, right? I mean, look at us, right? We're sitting here with devices. We're on our devices for 4 or 5, 10 hours a day.
That's correct.
And so our sense of community is now virtual. I don't think the Black community has done as good a job when it comes to politics, civic engagement, issue orientation of translating that in-person, precinct captain meeting, community captain meeting, church organizing meeting online. And that's what we got to get to very quickly if we want to rekindle that relationship with each other in terms of feeling organized, right? But there is some recent example of it working, right? I think about Pastor Jamal Bryant and what he did with the Target Fast, right?
That's correct.
There weren't a lot of in-person organizing meetings around the country around that. No, we were organizing online, right? He was doing it from his pulpit in Atlanta on Sunday morning, but we were watching it live, right? We were watching it a few hours later. And so I think there is examples of us using virtual platforms to organize ourselves. We got to do that more, in the near future.
So on that, because that's something I was talking about earlier, we knew back in the days, but back when politics and we were generating before all of this, let's go that way, before all the technology, they did it the old-fashioned way. They did it with newspapers. They did it with the meetings. They did it with churches and all of that. How much of that you think is lost now? Because now some of the churches are not, people are not getting as much people coming into church like they used to. So that way that people are not being engaged that way. Community meetings, are almost non-existent. You go there. It's funny when we help these candidates run for office. They want to go to these meetings, and when you go to the meetings, there's more candidates actually at these meetings
than voters.
Than voters. It's really sad. To your point about the precinct committeemen, and being those, seemed like we lost all of that, and I think we lost it for a lot of different things. I think it was a time where government actually could really help you, and you actually felt when government can help you. And here's how. When you were a precinct committeeman or something like that, my son just got out of college or headed to college, but he needed a summer job. And you were able to get him a summer job working at the county or working in the state or working in the city or something like that because you were a Democratic precinct committee person or Republican. You had the ability to be able to do that. We took a lot of that out of what goes on. So there's no kind of patronage for the small person because, again, we in a life where it's like, what what can you do for me?
Right.
All right, and because elected officials sort of act like that's, or people act like that's a big deal, but that's what you're asking them. You know, you're asking them to give you your vote, give you your support, believe in what you're saying, and that you're going to do that. So when they ask, well, what you going to do for me, it shouldn't seem like a big thing. And if they're saying, well, I need a job, or I need opportunities for my kid, or I need that, none of that happens anymore in our community. And I think that's probably our biggest issue with these things.
I mean, it's a huge problem. Yeah. I think, number one, we haven't demanded enough of it, right? So some of it's on us.
Right.
But I think, secondly, you know, some of the largest public investments have been to billionaires through the form of tax breaks, through the form of, you know, incentives for these stadiums, right, and these arenas.
Right.
Again, we enjoy those things, right? But to your point, how do we make more impact to the individual person?
That's correct.
Right. And this is, again, one of the big hilarious moments in recent politics was when Donald Trump and Joe Biden, you know, gave stimulus checks right during COVID. It was one of the first times people actually felt a personal benefit from their government.
That's correct.
Right. And whether or not, again, people want to give credit to who or for what, we can talk about the semantics and the actuality, how those things happen. Right. But it was one of the first times the government said, hey, here's a check. Right. Like, here's something for you. And we need more of that, to your point. Right. I think about the legacy of Marion Barry in D.C. Right. And people talk about his downfall. But what black people remember is him giving summer jobs in D.C. Right. Where any black kid, any kid in general could get a job in D.C. during the summer because of his summer jobs program. Same thing in Atlanta as well, right, with Maynard Jackson. And so there is a legacy of us creating impact for the individuals. How do we get back to that? We got to demand it more as voters. We need government to also provide those opportunities.
You know, old school power marches, new power marketing that we do now, they both supposed to deliver us results, and we'll see what happens. You know, we did a lot of marching, and we got a lot of stuff that we're doing now as it relates to this new way of doing campaigns based on algorithms and data. So hopefully, somehow or another, you're the right man for it, that you can figure out a way to make it all come together.
Well, and look, it has to be a combination of both, right? I don't think it's going to be an either or. And if any candidate or any operative is saying it has to be one or the other, I think they're dead wrong. Our community does still connect, right? If you think about, you know, the economy right now, one of the growing sectors of the economy is actually live events and experiences. People want to go to concerts. They want to go to NBA and NFL games. They want to get out and be with each other. Part of that still is, you know, a remnant of COVID and being locked away from each other for a year, 2 or 3. But at the same time, our politics have gotten so divisive and nasty that people don't want to be engaged around politics right now. And so we gotta change that. And so I do think there is a little bit of and, you know, both and not so much either or.
No, let's talk a little bit about money, because I believe that's the bloodline of the politics. You know, I've been in a room as a consultant and sat up in rooms with people and helped decide who gets the money, who doesn't, and that kind of thing, based off of what they're doing and where we at that time, because it's just never enough money. So it's not like a here, this or that. It's just what can you really do in a short period of time to maximize the dollars that you got. So when we talk about what you're doing and the funding system that you're putting together, where you draw the line of where people like to call it political begging versus really trying to push your message across? How you sell that to the people?
Well, look, I think this is the thing that we hope that we are building something new and different and independent. You know, listen, black people are 13% of the population. We are not the majority of Democratic donors in this country. But we know we are the base of the party. We know that we are the most loyal voting bloc of the party. And so there has to be some equalization there in terms of our community being engaged and prioritized, you know, beyond the quote unquote 13% metric in this country. And so, look, you know, we have to negotiate and work with white donors and with white power structures to fund our politics. That is a challenge for all of us right now. You know, since 2016, this is our 10th year, we've raised over $50 million to support our movement, our message, our candidates. But I'll be honest, all that is not from Black donors. And so we got to change that ratio. We are trying. I think we've gotten, a lot better. We've probably done better than anyone else has before us. But that is the opportunity for us. I think there are other examples, other communities owning their politics and letting their money, speak volumes politically. I think about the Jewish community, right, and what they've been able to do through groups like AIPAC. And again, I'm not here to defend what AIPAC does, but I am here to say they have a very powerful model that I think we could learn from in terms of organizing our money around a single or one or two or three issues to make huge impact. And sure, do we want money out of politics? Yes, we do. I'm not arguing for there to be unlimited money in politics. I think that, again, is a hindrance of our ability to, create Black progress. I want to be clear on that. But we have to, deal with the cards that we've been dealt in this moment, which means we got to organize our people and our money. And so, yes, Black wealth is increasing. We need that increase to show up in our politics.
We definitely do. And to your point about AIPAC, I think that AIPAC does do a great job of pushing its narrative about what it's doing. I know it's taken a lot of slack about what's going on because, like we were talking about earlier, what's going on in Gaza and places like that. In that, how do you, as a organization, balance that? What's your philosophy on talking to donors who really want to hesitate about giving money to your Black PAC like yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, people have interests, right? And so how do you negotiate those interests to align with yours? I think people want to win-win, right? They want to see their issue or their concerns be addressed. And at the same time, if our issues can be addressed, I think that's a win-win, and it's an opportunity, right, to work together. And so the thing I'm trying to get across to Black people, though, is it's always a win-win when it comes to Black wealth and Black candidates, in my opinion, right? I think the more Black candidates we have in office, the more Black wealth we can create.
That's correct.
The more Black opportunities we can create. And so I think that's always a win-win. But yeah, there is always a opportunity, I think, to find that place where we can get what we need done by getting our people in office. We're going to back certain issues that align with Black interests that also may coalesce with other communities' issues and interests, right? Again, I think about the Black and Jewish community during the Civil Rights Movement. They were in lockstep for most of the Civil Rights Movement. I think recently we've, there have been some, I think efforts to rekindle that partnership, but it hasn't been as strong as it was previously. Again, due to some issues that we're seeing happen, with the Palestinian community, obviously, which again has been horrendous, right? We as Black people, we got to be honest of what we've seen come out of that situation has been a problem. Do I believe that Israel should exist and that Jews should obviously have a Jewish state? I do believe that, but at the same time, we don't want to negotiate, humanity for that kind of conversation. And so, and again, I think most Jews would agree with that statement. And so there's a moment where you have to be also honest, right, with the donor base.
I'm glad you mentioned that
in the community, right?
I'm really glad you went there because that's that part.
Yeah, you got to be honest.
You got to be honest. The interview I had before was with Rhonda Crowder, and we talked. It was about Black media. She's a journalist, and we was getting in that, and we talked about how Roland Martin always say you can't be Black media and scared to stand up for Black people.
Exactly.
And so with that, I know you're in a very precarious situation because you're trying to raise that money from these people,
right?
But you gotta, like you say, at some point, I gotta tell the truth.
Oh, I mean, we're not gonna hold our tongue.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So I'm glad
take resources, but at the same time,
right.
Our job at Collective PAC, we are a platform, right? We are bringing donors in, we are bringing candidates in,
right?
And ultimately, we want the candidates to get into office.
That's correct.
And they have to make decisions on their own, right? We can provide them with the information, we can provide them with our perspective,
right?
But at some point, that candidate has to make that call on whatever that issue is.
That's correct.
It is the job of our community, right, to voice our concerns and our agenda, just like any other community is. Now, if we give you money from Collective PAC and you get in office and you act crazy on our issues, oh, we will replace you. That's very cut and dry. But at the same time, I think other communities, again, have that same opportunity to engage a candidate on their perspective, on their issue, right? That is their opportunity to do so. But I think all of us could agree right now, we need more Black leaders in public office, right? We need more diversity in our decision-making processes. I think what we're seeing right now is not very reflective of where the country is when it comes to their leadership. And so that's something I think we can all agree on. But again, I will say we are never going to stand back and telling the truth about whatever issue it is that is harming Black people or harming any people, that we think needs to be addressed.
I think that's your strongest part of the thing is to be able to do that.
And the way we get more of that is we need more resources, right? And not just us, right?
That's the bottom line.
But we need our candidates,
our candidates
to have more resources. If you want to see more Black folks who are in office fighting for Black issues, they need resources. If they're going to go to bat for us, they got to have somewhere to turn when the pressure is turned up on them. Because those other folks, they will cut them off very quickly.
That's correct.
They've done it, right? Again, we saw I'm using two examples, in St. Louis and in Pittsburgh, you had two Black, I'm going to call them activist mayors, right? Fighting for our issues, right? Moving resources away from folks that didn't want those dollars moved away from them. But when it came down to it, again, we did what we could from our perspective, but we didn't have the community, not just in those cities, but around the country, backing those folks up. And so we got to do a better job as a community to have our folks back.
And that's what it means when we say we. That means
we
as Black folks need to be supporting. We as Black folks should be giving you guys the resources that you need, because it's easier to negotiate with us than everybody else when we talking about issues that affect us.
Right.
It's only easier to negotiate for that. Exactly. Let me ask you, you building this national donor base that you're doing and your network. If we're not successful at it, how you think you think we'll survive?
I mean, it's a basic equation, right? We can either be homeowners of our politics and of our progress, or we could be renters. And at any moment, rent can go up, we can get evicted. I mean, I think that is where we are as a people right now. It is. Our progress is going to be directly tied to who is in office and who our leaders are. And so if we aren't owning our power, if we aren't funding our candidates, if we aren't owning the data on our own community, if we aren't providing platforms to engage our community, right, through Black-owned media, then again, we are going to be what's the age-old saying? If you're not at the table, you're on the menu, right? And so we don't want to only be at the table. We want to be at our own table, right? We want to be, having our own feasts. I think that is where we got to go very, 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 very quickly, because we're seeing, right now, if you think about where we've seen visas being cut off, right? Majority Black and brown countries. When you think about, what's happening with ICE. Okay. People are saying, "Oh, it's not us." It can be us, very quickly. And so I think people need to wake up to understand that this is go time. Like this is not time to sit back. I know people had a little bit of frustration with how things happened in 2024.
That's correct.
I want to lean back. I need time off. I want to get. That is understood. People had 2025 to get themselves together.
Whole year.
2026, it is go time, y'all. We gotta be ready for this fight, because it is a fight, and if we don't show up this year, things are gonna get worse for us.
Do you guys do anything other than the political stuff?
Yeah. So we also do a lot of voter engagement work, right? So what most people don't know is that the larger side of our organizations do voter registration. We do voter communication. We provide free rides for voters to get to the polls. We do a lot of work with the entertainment community, celebrities and artists who want to use their platforms to advocate for certain issues. So that's actually the majority of work that we do, is not, quote unquote, the political side of the candidates, but it's really about democracy. and about voting. We've seen a ton of progress be made in our community through the electoral process. And yes, we want the decision maker to be a Black candidate.
Okay.
But when it's not, or if it can't be, we still want to make sure Black voters are being heard at that ballot box and that we are being determinate on who those leaders are. Because listen, politics in voting and elections, it is a transaction. People have long told our community, oh, don't be transactional, while they are being transactional every single day with their money, with their votes. And so we got to be the same way. Like, we have to look at this as a transaction. What are we getting for our votes, right? You as a donor, what are you getting for your contribution? Now, again, we're not saying pay to play and do anything illegal, but we are saying when you invest in a candidate, your issues that you care about should be prioritized.
That's correct.
Right? And so I think that is really critical when you think about, this work. And so, yes, we do things outside of politics, but again, still around civic engagement overall.
Well, until we start financing our own ourselves, we'll never free ourselves of that politically.
Right.
You know, so I think that's going to be a major one. We're going to switch into another segment of the show where we're going to talk about building and infrastructure.
Yep.
Money gets you in the game, structure keeps you in it. You know, the hardest part of this is working isn't the election, is what happens after. Okay, and that's what I tell everybody. Somebody told me the other day, oh, you should have helped this candidate. You would have loved her. She was a hard worker. She very hard worker. I say they all hard workers when they running for office.
Exactly.
What about that? What afterwards is what I always have the problem with. So what exactly does the Collective PAC leave behind once a race is over? And are you building instructions or just a movement? Are you infrastructure or are you building a movement here?
Yeah, so I think we're doing a little bit of both, right? I think we're building a movement that is supporting the building of infrastructure. Okay. But I will say, I think we are very much on the getting you into office side, but we're not in the quote unquote what you do while you're in office day to day. Right. And that's because of capacity.
That's correct.
We would love to do that. Right. But we can't do that for everybody because, as you all know, after one election, there are more coming up.
That's correct.
Right. So if there's a federal election and there are local elections happening, there are local elections happening, and there are going to be state and federal elections happening. So we kind of got to balance that side of it. But there are amazing groups out there who do work supporting people who are elected into office. And so I think about groups like AMA, the African American Mayors Association. They help Black mayors when they are in office with, policy priorities, with sample legislation, and the same thing with a group like NBCSL, the National Black Caucus of State Legislators. Right, they help Black state legislators get not get in office, but to get bills passed when they're actually in office, to train their staff on the official side. Our job is to help get you into office and to inform you of, here's why we helped you get into office. Here are the priorities that people are talking about from our perspective. But when it comes to the infrastructure, we think about it in a few different ways, right? We are leaving behind a campaign staff, right, who were trained by us through our Black Political Leadership Institute, right, on how to run campaigns and how to be leaders. We are leaving behind a community who's been engaged to show up and vote for you, right, who you can then engage on your policy priorities, right? We are leaving behind donors who you need to engage on your campaign and on your, platform while you were in office, right, who can help stay with you and communicate your priorities to other folks in the community. So we think about this as a kind of behind the scenes thing where we are leaving you a infrastructure, but what are you going to do with that infrastructure that's local once you get into office? Okay. Right. It's very much a give and take. Right. We are offering you all this stuff. You got to utilize it though. I think that's the part where it's on the candidate and their campaign team to figure that out.
You mentioned something, I believe, about a 13% representation goal. And what's the roadmap to hitting that? City by city, state by state, or how you plan on getting there?
Yeah, I mean, listen, the place where we find the largest deficit is on the statewide level. Okay. Right. We've only elected, only a handful of Black governors. Never elected a Black woman governor. Right. Very few. We've seen some recent success with Black lieutenant governors, with Black attorney generals, but Secretary of States, right, U.S. senators, right, we want to see more black folks getting elected to those statewide offices, because what we know is that those are offices that also are executives.
Okay.
Meaning they can, enact a lot of change on their own. Being a member of Congress is really important, but you're one of, 435.
That's correct.
Being a member of City Council is important, but you're one of a lot, right? And so we want to see more executives, more black mayors, more black governors, more black attorney generals, right? We think about what happened in Minneapolis, right, with George Floyd. And, a lot happened in the aftermath of that. But one of the most important things that happened is those officers were prosecuted very quickly.
Okay.
Because we had a black attorney general by the name of Keith Ellison in place.
That's correct.
Right?
That's correct.
He didn't have to wait for the governor to tell him what to do or for a commission to tell him what to do. He did it himself through his own office. And so we need more black executives, both local and state level. So mayors, county executives, prosecutors, attorney generals. But that is where I think we're going to see change happen quickly if those folks can get into office.
Well, we're right in the middle of a midterm. That's this year's coming up. This year. In May coming up, Amy Acton is going to be on the ballot running to be our governor of Ohio. How important is that race to you? I know we live here as one, but in the bigger picture, how important that race is, and does the Collective PAC have any plans to get involved in that race this year? And if so, definitely you can count voices in working with y'all on that. But
definitely.
What's the play? What's the play? What we
doing?
Yeah,
I mean, look, I think this race will be really important. As goes Cleveland and Cuyahoga County, goes the state. And so we need high turnout here in Cleveland, along with the other, major cities across the state: Columbus, Cincinnati, Toledo, Akron, Dayton. And so, yes, that race is important. We're going to be playing heavily in the statewide race here in Ohio. Listen, I think Amy Acton has a great chance. I think her opponent is someone who I am very concerned about. He is a person of color who tries to weaponize race unless he's being attacked. I think it's quite funny. He's very colorblind, and I don't want people to see color, but then when those same white supremacists, attacked him, he's like, oh, we shouldn't support racism. Exactly. It's what we've been telling you. And now you see where we're coming from. So I think him being very two-faced is going to come back and bite him.
Okay.
But I think the play here is we need to your point, control the spending that happens to engage black voters. Why do these white-led efforts always make the decisions around how we are to be engaged as black voters in the black community? I think that's a problem. I think there needs to be a group of people around the state who come together to say, here is how we think the black community should and can be engaged in 2026. Here's how much it's going to cost. We, as a group, want to raise that money, and you, as the party or as certain party committees, here's how you can invest in that strategy. But it should not be those committees telling us how they're going to spend money in our communities with our people or with their people to do work in our community. Like that's not a recipe for success.
Are you worried about the fact that Ohio has not shown that it will hire or vote for a woman? We had Hillary that it didn't vote for. We had Kamala Harris that it didn't vote for. And everybody forget we had Cheryl Stevens and Nan Whaley, who ran once before also, that Ohio overwhelmingly didn't vote for. So does it bother you, or what's your thoughts on the fact that we're going back as Democrats again with the same thing of going in? And this time we're going with someone who doesn't have the experience.
Yeah. Listen, I think this will be a critical race that we will see, right? I think, listen, sexism and misogyny is a real problem in our society. And so Amy, yes, has to really fight two races, right? One as a Democrat in a state like Ohio, and two as a woman. But I also think her opponent offers another window into, the thoughts of voters, right?
Yeah, Ohio racism.
Right. Are you going to be racist or sexist?
Yeah,
Right.
That's the big question.
And that's a question.
That's
right?
a big question.
And so I think at some level that may level out the playing field for Amy. It's sad, right? I'm not saying that's a thing that we should be bragging about, but it's a reality.
It's a reality.
It's a reality.
It's a reality.
And a lot of times we try to dress up our politics and be all analytical.
No.
No, let's go to the bar down the street, talk to the average person in the room, and get their thoughts.
And look at the clips. They're online where they're really getting in old Vic Ramaswamy's behind about his religion, and they're using the religion because they haven't just straight said his color, but they use the religion as a base of that.
Exactly.
And so with that, I'm with you. And I've been saying the same thing. Are we more racist here, or are we more sexist at the end of the day?
The white supremacist Nick Fuentes, right?
Right.
He has said that that is the most important race that he is working against Vivek on in the country.
Wow.
So
Wow.
he's going to spend a lot of his time and his followers' time trying to defeat Vivek for that race.
But is he trying to defeat him for Amy though? What is they trying to defeat
I don't
him
think
for?
he's pro Amy, but I think the enemy
when
of
they
my
say
enemy might
defeat-
be my friend in some situations.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So to defeat him means you want to support her, I guess, right?
I mean, look, that's our opportunity to uplift her and get our folks out to vote.
Or they don't vote, maybe.
Right, maybe that's what it is, right? Maybe they vote for libertarian. I don't know what they're going to do on their side, but I know we have a great shot to elect Amy as a woman governor here in Ohio. But we have to organize black folks in the black community in a specific way, and that can't be top down. It has to be bottom up, and I think that's what we want to be a part of. And if she does that, if the party does it, I think we'll be very successful in 2026.
The difference between a movement and a machine is the owner, the one who owns the infrastructure is the one when everything goes home. So at the end of the day, whoever owns the infrastructure when everybody goes home, I would say is the key to that whole thing. And so right now, you hold the key to this thing because you are putting the infrastructure together.
Well, we're trying, right? But it takes people like yourself also leading on a local level who we have to partner with, right? So kind of like what we did in 2024, we were able to organize black men around the country, right, to fund black men engagement around the country. And so we were able to fund groups like yours and others and not come in ourselves, right, but to say, hey, here's some money, how best to use it. Let's share the data and share the conversations, but you go out and lead. I think that same model has to be applied here locally, but also around the country if we're going to be successful in all this work.
Why do you think black men feel politically disrespected?
Because they have been, right? I mean, they've been ignored. They're seen, as votes to go collect every October and November, but not folks whose issues want to be, issues that people want to listen to, engage, and negotiate. I think that's the reality, right?
You think the party's taking the black man for granted?
Definitely. Yeah, I think that's documented, that's proven. And it's a challenge, right? But I think that's the reality. Now, does the party have the opportunity to change that? It does. I think we can help guide them in doing that. But number one, you got to be real about that and to address it. I think author and scholar Nicole Hannah-Jones says this a lot, and she says that black folks are the most inconvenient folks in the country, right? We are a visual 3D reminder of the mistakes of this country, of the unmet debt in this country, right? When it comes to what happened with the institution of slavery and what's still happening with racism and white supremacy today. You think about redlining, you think about all the wealth that has been extracted from our community. Our presence is a constant reminder of that problem with this country. And so if we recognize that, then we understand that the party is going to take us for granted. Right? They don't want to negotiate with that history. They don't want to come to the realization that they have to actually do something to address that. And that's beyond party line. That's Democrat, Republican, that's everybody.
That's correct.
But how do we fix that? Number one, let's start engaging black men now around their priorities in this election. As a candidate running in Ohio in 2026, you need to be having direct conversations with groups of black men around how they see this moment in reality, right? This is America's 250th anniversary, right? America 250. How much of that story is being told by black men, right? Or the black community?
That's correct.
Folks aren't coming to us to talk about how do you see this moment of America's 250, right? But let's go to the National Mall and let's shoot fireworks up. Let's not deal with the hard inconveniences of us.
That's correct.
Right? And so, yes, have those convos with black men. Hire black men in leadership roles on your campaign. Spend money with black male-owned organizations and businesses. This isn't rocket science, right? It's not hard to do. It has to be intentional. And so when there is not intentionality to do it, that's an intentional choice to not do it, right? Well, which we have experience with.
Well, there's culture fatigue out there where brothers are tired of being preached at about voting without seeing any results. So in what you're saying, and I got part of that, is how can you elaborate a little bit more? You think we can start to build back that hope in brothers, not just the hype. And Quentin, hell, that answer could be just really bigger than all of us, because the issues that affect most black men is bigger than voting.
It is, right? And it shouldn't just also always be criminal justice reform.
That's
correct.
Can
we talk about something other than damn police?
Everybody's not
jails.
a criminal.
Exactly.
And everybody don't get arrested. Everybody don't have to go through that.
Exactly.
And those who do get arrested may just get out of it, pay their fine or whatever, and they go about their business. Exactly. So it don't have to be that.
It don't always totally start with that, right?
Yeah.
But again, I think folks who are elected need to come with receipts. What have you done from a policy perspective that has impacted black men or the black community positively? And if you don't have those receipts, get to work very quickly to produce those, because I think that's what it really comes down to, is what are you doing for me and my people? And if you can't answer that question, it's very hard to want to dialogue with me, right? Like to want to or to ask me to show up and support you and vote for you, right? For more of the same, I don't think any community wants to see or hear that.
That's right.
But to your point, there are a lot of issues that we are concerned about, right? Yeah, jobs and wealth, right? We are concerned about education and our children, right? We're concerned about access to health care. We know that black men are suffering with negative health disparities in this country. Talk to us about all that stuff, before expecting us to do something for you.
That's correct. That's correct. Because all black men don't want to be motivated. They just want to be respected at the end of the day. And I think that's where we're on to that.
Exactly.
You're building a structure that made a lot of noise. But the question is, what are you going to make this version of the black power last longer than the last one?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it is never our goal that the collective PAC should be around for 100 years. Right? If that's our reality, then we failed. We're at a 10-year mark. We've helped elect 500 folks to office. We have more black mayors, members of Congress, statewide elections than we have had at any other time in history, right? So check for progress. But the larger question is, has black life improved in this country? I think in some places we have some examples of yes, that answer, that the question being answered yes. I think a lot of places we have the answer being no. So we got more work to do there around improving black lives. It is our theory of change that more black leadership equals a better quality of life for black people in this country. And so if that's true, right, with more black leaders, we should see more black progress. I don't know how long Collective can or should be around. But that's our longevity is not the goal, right? The goal is progress that's sustainable, that can happen very quickly. That's the real goal. But how we think the infrastructure can be sustained, definitely more dollars from black donors, and more engagement from black voters, right? We need more local black-led PACs. We need every black interest group, the Divine Nine, they should all have a PAC.
That's correct.
black social organizations or professional organizations, right? The black MBA should have a PAC. The black doctor should have a PAC. The black dentist should have a PAC. Everybody in every organized fashion, we now have the Black Church PAC, right, organizing. Every facet of our community that's being organized should also be organizing their money around our politics.
That's the only way to get it.
In this moment.
That's the only way to get it.
And we can be a model of that, but it doesn't have to start or end with the Collective PAC.
What's the biggest threat to your movement? Money, ego, division, or fatigue?
Ooh, I'm going to say division.
There it is. Yeah.
I think ego, a lot of times, that'll settle itself. People can see through ego, and those leaders will come and go. I think fatigue ebbs and flows. People need time off, and they can come back and get recharged. That's something that can be fixed in short manner. But I think division is where we maybe suffer the most. We have very limited resources. We have very limited time in many instances. And so division is one of those things that it's hard to get around quickly and maybe economically, right? It's sometimes expensive and time consuming. We don't have those luxuries in this moment right now. So I think that's the biggest threat is, when you have a really important race. I think about the governor's race in Georgia right now, where you have multiple black candidates. And Georgia is a place of historic black political power, but you got a lot of division right now around which black candidate should be the candidate. A lot of money being wasted on candidates who are not going to win that primary. Now, look, I think candidates have every right to run and to make their voice heard. But at some point, we got to coalesce and come together, just as any community might do, right? And so I think the division piece, though, it's a problem because it wastes time and money, which are two of the most critical resources that we have. That's correct. In politics.
And that's the biggest problem we're having right now in our own community is division.
Right.
Let's talk about, right now, I'll give you an opportunity to give a message to the next generation of political thinkers and operatives. What would you tell them?
If you've ever wondered what you would be doing at the height of the civil rights movement, or the height of the Civil War, if you ever kind of time traveled in your mind, I think there is a generation of folks who will come decades later who are going to look back at those who were acting in this moment. And so that placeholder you might have had in your moment of what you would have done now is that exact moment. We are facing threats on all sides, here domestically, I think internationally, and we've never been more connected than we are right now. We've never had access to information, access to each other the way that we do. How we choose to respond in this moment, I think, will resound for generations to come. And so now is that time to utilize our access to come together, and to, I think, hopefully defeat white supremacy. I think this is white supremacy's last-ditch effort to survive and take us out. And if we can survive this moment and knock it out, I think with the browning of America, I think we can also brown America's ideology and create the kind of country that we've always dreamed about over the next few decades. But what we do right now in this very moment, I think will decide that. And again, I know it's a cliche. It's the most important election of your lifetime. I mean, we say that all the time. I don't think we've ever faced the kind of threats we're facing right now, when we have an active, admitted white supremacist not only running our country as president, but installing people throughout the federal government who are also instituting white supremacist rules, policies, laws. And that, again, is having devastating impacts on many communities, including ours. But that also has staying power if we're not careful. And so what we do in this moment, I think, will determine the next 30, 40, 50 years of black life in America.
So speaking of that, if you were to map out black power over the next 10 years, where you think it lives? State House, media, corporate boardrooms, or somewhere we haven't even talked about yet?
I mean, the easy answer is to say all of the above, but I think on the political side, we got to take more power on the state level. The state level is where a lot of decisions that impact our daily lives take place every single day, right? When it comes to the courts, when it comes to these tax deals for, again, I mentioned these stadiums that are being built, right? We're spending hundreds of millions of dollars
That's correct.
on entertainment. And I love to go to these games, to these concerts and these shows, but there are a lot of opportunities to impact our community through those policies that we're giving away to billionaires. It happens at the state level. And so we need more folks running for state rep, state senate, running for governor. Those things will have a major impact on what happens over the next, few years. A lot of what's happening under President Trump right now was tested or piloted at the state level.
Okay.
In a Texas or Louisiana or Alabama. Those things move their way to D.C. It doesn't happen the other way around. And so if we want to create progressive change to impact black communities, we got to pilot that stuff at the state level.
Oh, they say, man, if you don't professionalize that power, somebody else is going to monetize it.
Exactly.
And I think that's why, and they've been doing a good job of doing that over the years. So I think it's really important. I want to talk a little bit about this black media, and we kind of talked about it in the beginning, but I want to get a little bit more into that because of what's going on now and the importance of it. We done seen people like Don Lemon, Joy Reid, and others who have left networks. Tiffany Cross is another one who has left network, and there's many more who got pushed out of networks. Some networks are now not being as diverse as they were. Some of the issues and things that they were going after and looking after that was news, they're not covering those anymore as well. How do you see the Collective PAC and working with black media, working in conjunction, and the importance of that? You mentioned that Kamala Harris only had a small group of black media people who were able to benefit or work on her campaign. And to that, we could have probably did better in getting more of our community out with that. How do you see in the future and working and how we need to work more with black media and working with platforms like this ones and others, new podcasters that are out here and those things? How do you see all of that all working to the benefit of the collective?
Yeah, I mean, well, listen, in war theory, it's the first line of defense, right? It's communications. And so if we aren't protecting and expanding black independent media, then we're in trouble. Right, our ability to connect with each other is going to have to go through someone else, and we don't want to have to deal with middlemen to get to our folks. And so our work with black media is essential and it's critical, and we invest heavily there because we have to do so. I do think it looks differently though, right?
Okay.
I think think about black newspapers, right? We got to get them online, right, and get them kind of thinking about their audience from a digital standpoint first. I think we need to have more black independent media networks working together, right? So you think about Joy Reid and Roland Martin and even yourself or all these folks, Don Lemon, they need to have their own network, right, that we are investing in as a community, that we're watching each and every night for our news. We're kind of doing it online through other platforms, but I think there's an opportunity to bring those folks together, to have our own independent black media network. And so, yes, it's critical for our success as an organization, but also for our community to, I think, fight back in this moment. We don't want to have to negotiate with the tech bros who clearly are being bought and paid for, are buying and paying for their access with, the folks in the White House right now.
So maybe they need to have a black journalist PAC.
Exactly. And I mean, not even a PAC, right? But like, think about NABJ, who had their annual meeting here in Cleveland last year, right? How do they work with those larger independent platforms to create a real black AP, for example, right? Where we're sharing, stories, sharing segments, sharing users, right, and viewers. I think that will be, again, powerful in terms of our ability to be unified.
And the reason why I mentioned PAC was that I believe that free speech is just being threatened.
Oh,
itself.
Man, big time.
And I think that with the fact that you have a president that can kick people out of the press pool, you have a president who says whatever they want to say, and that kind of thing. You got a guy who's telling people, hey, civil rights actually was discriminatory towards white men,
Right.
and how they should sue their government now so I'm thinking that there should be someone that's just really speaking up to say, hey, who's fighting for free speech?
Exactly.
And that's why I said maybe there should be some type of political action
it's a good
committee to say, hey, we need to be fighting to assure that free speech is still out here, because that's going to be the next thing that's threatened.
Yeah.
And they already started.
You know,
on
you
it,
start
right?
burning books, man.
Yeah.
Or banning books,
Banning
man.
books,
That's
it's
scary.
it's really scary. And just like even in Ohio, one of the things, they took out all of the stuff of Black history and some of those things in school, but then they adopted and passed this, I think it's called Olivia's Law, where, you know, now they're in there talking about babies from an embryo standpoint out. So they were able to push all of that out, but then bring that back in. So I just think that we're in a point where there should be someone who's really just fighting for the right to keep us free speech, because that's where we headed now.
I agree.
So Quentin, I want to thank you for coming on our program, man.
Thank you for having me, brother.
You
This
did a
has been
great job, man. You must have read that script, because you just flowed right through this thing, man. I was like, he answered my questions before I answered my questions. He did a great
Ken,
job.
again, thank you for your leadership, what you're doing on the ground here. And let's keep working together, man, solving some of these problems.
Hey, man, like we do on all of our programs before we end, we give you that camera right there to give you an opportunity. If you got something you want to say to the community to end our show, you know, please do that, and make sure you let them know where they can reach you and all that.
Yeah, well, number one, let's keep supporting Kenn Dowell and his platform here. I think it's important. Listen, this is 2026. It's the Collective PAC's 10-year anniversary. Check us out at collectivepac.org. Maybe give a donation. Give us $10. Celebrate 10 years of success of building Black political power. But listen, the only way that we're going to change the laws is we want to change the lawmakers. We want to make sure more of our folks are in public office around the country. So thank you for listening to me today, for following us online. Please do so. But again, keep supporting Kenn and this broadcast and this platform, because it's definitely needed in this moment.
I appreciate it. This is Quentin James from the Collective PAC. He's moving and shaking throughout Ohio and across this country, trying to ensure that more Black African Americans are in public office, and some. So if you really want to be a part of his organization, just check out the description. We have all the information in the description, and make sure you like and subscribe to our program. Till next week, we'll see you soon. Peace.
This is Strategic Moves with Kenn Dowell.